Ahoy! Welcome to the s.r.o Film Festival Bubbles, where every day we welcome some of the most sparkling and bubbling guests of this year's festival. You thought festivals were all about champagne and red carpets. Well, we don't have the champagne, but we do have the bubbles, and today's bubbles are coming from France, so we can't get much closer to champagne than the guest we're having today, and it's Hugo Thomas, director of the film Juniors. Welcome.
Hello.
In the s.r.o Film Festival and in our festival bubbles. I guess you're the one who should be able to tell us what this film is all about. Can you tell the story in 5 sentences so that everybody knows?
5 sentences.
Well,
it's about two teenagers, 2 best friends who make a big mistake. If you want a longer version, it's two people two friends who like to stream their video games online, and one day something happens, and a lot of people think one of these 2 best friends has cancer, and it happens to be the day when he breaks his PlayStation 4. So they decide to pretend that it's true. He has cancer, so they can raise money and buy a new one. So that's it. That's pretty much it.
What I thought was really interesting about this film, it's not set in Paris. It's not set in Marseille. It's set somewhere in France. Maybe you can be more specific about it, because the place for me also defines the story.
That's really where the idea came from. So it's really interesting that you bring it up, because in France, a lot of movies are based in Paris or made by people who come from Paris, and that's something I don't like really. So when I started to make movies, I knew that I was not from Paris, and I wanted to talk about different areas than Paris. And so it was really inspired by that and by my childhood and my teenage years in the French countryside, where everything feels boring and where you have a passion, but you can't really do anything about it, because it's too far, everything's too far, everything seems out of reach, and life is hard.
This might be a familiar feeling for the people in s.r.o.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So, because your story is also set in a small town, and I think that's more or less the same position that s.r.o. has.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. There's so many places where it's like that in the world, where you, like now with internet, you watch everything like the Oscars in Los Angeles, and I don't know, if you have a passion, you can have access to it, but you can't really be a part of it, and that's a paradox that came with internet, that became bigger with internet, and that's what I wanted to talk about.
Just like the festival, like the Oscars in Los Angeles, people can also watch the festival Bubbles from s.r.o. all over the planet. But you already had a screening in s.r.o. How did it go? How did the audience react?
It was really good. I was really surprised to see how there was a lot of teenagers, very young, like 12 years old, and they had a lot of questions. They were really open, and they really wanted to talk, and that was surprising for me, because in France, where teenagers are really shy, and it's hard for us to speak in public, but I saw that in
I thought the French did nothing else than speaking all the time in public, or not?
Not in public. We're not used to it, so I was really surprised, and it went well, and they asked for Juniors 2 for the sequel, so that was a good compliment.
Another thing that we recognize in the film at the moment is not only the small town, but it's also the season. This film is set in summer. A little bit the same feeling that we have today, like there's a new season going to start, everything is wide open, we're going to have a lot of fun in the next couple of months. That's the feeling that I can sense here out on the streets, but it's also a little bit the feeling that I get from your film.
I really wanted to film in the summertime. Unfortunately, it was a really bad summer, so we had to cheat a little bit. But I think it's interesting too that the film takes place in a place where it's really nice in the summertime, and because it's a vacation, almost a vacation place. But then when people leave the place, the rest of the year it's very boring and there's nothing to do. And there's also a paradox that I liked.
So that's the real world. A substantial part of the story is also situated in a virtual world, or at least a digital world. How did you combine the real world and the digital world in your film? How did you fit the stories together?
Well, what I think is interesting is that there are huge video games fans, but they won't play until, like, they just play for 5 minutes and then it's over because their PlayStation breaks. And then, in a way, they play, like, what they used to live in the video games, they live it in real life. Because, like, at the end, there's a huge... They get chased by people with huge weapons and stuff like that. So they live it in real life. So that was something that I had fun playing with. And also, I loved, like, talking about the cliche, which says that violence in video games creates violent people and stuff like that. Yeah. I just wanted to have fun with this cliche.
What I was wondering all the time, the digital world is changing really, really fast these days. Do you have any idea how people will react if they see the film in 10 years? Because I don't think PlayStation 4 will still be fashionable in 10 years, but what about the rest of the story?
Yes, so fortunately, what they want is a PlayStation 5, so that's great, so it gives us a little time. Other than that, like, video games are not really present in the movie, so I think we should be fine, because, as I said, the PlayStation breaks, so in the end, it's a movie where, like, it should be universal, and what I film is more of the countryside than really video games.
Okay, then I have one last question for you that is also very much connected to the city of Zlin, because you know that the glorious empire of Zlin was built on one thing, shoes, from the Batja factory.
Was it? Oh.
I thought that was the first thing that people told you when you came to Zlin. That's what they usually do.
I've learned a lot about Zlin, but I didn't know that.
I will tell you about the Batja factory later. But first, I have this one question. Since Zlin is all about shoes, can you show your shoes? And maybe there's a story to your shoes.
A nice piece, Doc Martens, very, very, like, never gets out of style. And actually, when I was a kid, with my parents, we always went to the place where they make Doc Martens, but they sell the ones with a little default, a little problem.
Yeah.
So they were much less expensive. So it was a part of a trip we made every, like, other year. So we went there and bought, like, little Doc Martens, but with a
So you grew
problem.
up in your Doc Martens.
Yeah.
So you see, nobody realizes it, but everybody has a story about shoes, and I really liked your one, and I also liked your film, and the fact that we have you here with us. I wish you great days in Zlin, good luck with juniors, and thank you for being in our festival bubble today.
Thanks.